Hey, comic lovers, EMoney, the old man here with you again, and as promised, Thor the Dog of Thunder back with us again.
Thor
Pretty
the
boy.
knucklehead.
Yeah.
You know, you're getting lazy. You used to sit up all the time. Now it's just as soon as I give you a treat, you just plop down.
So did you have a fun Halloween, Thor? Did you have fun? Yeah? Yeah? Was it fun? Yeah, okay.
Did you eat any kids? 'Cause that'd be your treat. You beast.
All right, so, like I said, there were a lot of scheduling conflicts. That's why we didn't film with Thor last week.
The scheduling conflicts were all him.
Well, yeah, because I was working. I mean, Thor doesn't have a job that I know of, right? No? Okay. So, we didn't go on our walk last week. I'm sorry, buddy. So, nothing to report about Thor this week other than he's back. He's right there. All right, so we have a fun episode for you today. We have comic reviews for last week, and we have our comic preview for this week, and I am keeping the momentum going with another Movie-ism. Yeah. This one, it's themed towards comic books again. I did my Halloween one last week. This week, I have it geared towards comic books. All right, so looking
Breaks
forward.
my heart.
Yeah.
I'm all tore up about it. Oh my gosh.
Yep, so looking forward to that. All right, so I am currently taking reservations to rent Thor for your Daryl cosplay for next year. Or your I Am Legend cosplay if you want.
No, I Am Legend. We know what happens to the dog. Forget that.
All right, this is Back Issues. All right, comic lovers. So before we get started today, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, turn on your notifications, give us a thumbs up, and if you like, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think of these comics or give us some recommendations. All right, so before we go into our mentions, a reminder of how we do things around here. We grade all of these comics on a 5-shield rating system. We each give it 2 scores, one for writing and story and the other one for artwork with a 5-shield rating. And then we combine those 4 scores together to give it an average overall score.
Correct.
All right, so first we have our mentions this week. We don't say honorable mentions because sometimes we might have something negative to say about them.
No, this time they're both pretty good.
Okay.
These are the 2 books that didn't get in the top 3 because to get the score they got, they had to be rounded up. So they didn't quite get there. All right, we'll start it off with a DC book. It's number 1. I didn't know a lot about it when we picked it up, but it was pretty interesting. Task Force Z.
All right, so in this story, Jason Todd, the Red Hood, has been conscripted into service by a government agency to lead a task force. Now, what makes them different from Task Force X? It is that everyone on the team, including Jason, has been dead at some point, or possibly still is dead, has now become undead.
Now, do you think that takes some of their motivation away?
You would think so, yeah. So, they captured Jason and they put him into service. I don't know. I mean, just because he was dead at one point that they thought he would be perfect to lead this team. I don't know. But on the team, you have Bane, who died during the City of Bane storyline. They also have Man-Bat. And then you have one Arkham Knight. And at one point, Jason Todd was the Arkham Knight. I don't know who this new person is.
I don't remember anything about Arkham Knight.
Okay. So, I don't know what the government is thinking because so far this whole task force has been a big cluster because, Jason gives them a very basic directive, them being zombies.
Don't kill anybody.
Yeah. Get him, don't kill anybody, don't eat anybody. And then what's the first thing they do?
Oh, they eat some people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, not sure what they're thinking, but, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued with the story. Anxious to see.
Potential.
Yeah. Anxious to see where it goes. So, Task Force Z, number 1, coming in at 3.5 shields out of 5.
So you said it had some undead guys in it?
Yeah.
Well, let's keep that rolling because here we have another DC book. This one is DC versus Vampires, number 1.
All right, so keeping the undead theme going. All right, so this was highly anticipated. It's been advertised for several weeks.
They promoted the heck out of that book.
Yeah. So in this first issue, a vampire arrives at the Hall of Justice, and he's trying to warn the superheroes. A vampire who was the queen of the vampires, she has kept a relative truce between vampires and humans, keeping them from going completely crazy. And she was assassinated. She was murdered.
Oops.
So whoever's in charge now isn't so keen on staying in the shadows. Now, it should be a black label. It should say black label on here.
I hope so.
But yeah, for the sake of a lot of characters in this first issue, I hope this isn't canon. So things don't go as planned when this vampire guy tries to warn the heroes. So while this one isn't the best issue, it has a lot of potential, this story. I want to see where it goes. The artwork was okay. I think we both gave it 3s.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, a little better artwork, it might have made it into the top 3.
Well, if I'd have given it a 4 for writing like you did, it would have been in a 3-way tie for second place.
Ah.
But you know why I didn't give it a higher score in writing?
What was that?
Wonder Twins.
Ah.
I hate the Wonder Twins. If you put Wonder Twins in a comic book, that cost you at least a point with me.
I'd like to point out, you used to say the same thing about Ninja Turtles, and that's been our...
Okay. I admit it was proven that I can like the Ninja Turtles.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not likely that I'm going to like the Wonder Twins.
Mm. I did like that episode of Smallville they were in, though.
Whatever.
All right, so DC versus Vampires, number 1, just barely being edged out of the top 3 with 3
by the Wonder Twins.
Yeah.
All right, you ready to do our top 3?
All right, so top 3 for this week.
As always, there was a tie. It was a tie for number 2 and number 3. So, you know, it's getting tough to come up with a different contest to see who gets to pick. So I was in the garage and I saw a pair of rollerblades. So I borrowed a pair from a neighbor. And here's the problem. What was that game we used to play with the rollerblades? Street hockey?
Yeah.
Right. EMoney played a little street hockey back in the day. I have never been on rollerblades in my life. Barely knew how to skate on regular skates.
Mm.
And I nearly broke both my ankles. Needless to say, EMoney skated away with that one. Sorry for the pun. And he got to pick, yet again, the tiebreakers. So, according to EMoney, the number 3 book this week was DC's Batman, The Long Halloween, not in numbers, it's the Long Halloween Special.
Long Halloween Special.
Now, I believe that this is just a continuation of the other Batman Long Halloween stories.
Right. You know, I wish they would specify like where this fits into the canon. You know, should have put a big stamp on it, canon, non-canon. It's like, okay, it's a standalone story. I can just enjoy it from there.
EMoney, this seems to be an ongoing problem with you this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's annoying. I like to know where a comic stands.
You'll be okay.
All right, so this one happens a few years after the events of the Long Halloween. So the Calendar Man, who was a supporting character in the original story and was a suspect at one point as to who the holiday killer, I think is what they called him, he didn't like the idea of someone stealing his gimmick. You know,
nobody likes their gimmick to get stolen.
Yeah, killing on holidays. So he launches a plan against Batman, against Gotham, whatever you want to call it. And of course, you know, Harvey is up to no good. Some interesting things about this story was Dick Grayson is back to being Robin. There was no Batman in the original Long Halloween, I don't think. So Dick Grayson is Robin again, and he's a little kid, like 13 or 14.
No, he's younger than that.
Okay, is he like 12?
Yeah.
So Commissioner Gordon asks Batman if Robin would go trick-or-treating with his niece, Barbara.
Not his daughter.
Not his daughter. So, while interesting, I found that just a little bizarre.
I thought it was cool, though.
Yep. And he asked him, on the rooftop like he always does, and Batman does his disappearing act. So Gordon's about to go out with Barbara trick or treating, and Batman is waiting for him at the front door. I thought that was funny as hell.
It was.
It's like, as discussed, Jim. So Batman enters into a tenuous alliance with Two-Face to take down the Calendar Man. So good storytelling here. Again, artwork, okay. I think we both gave it 3s.
Yeah, it's one of those styles that kind of fits the book.
Yeah. So Batman, the Long Halloween Special, 3rd place with 3.5.
Yep.
3.5.
3.5 solid, no rounding.
All right. So that brings us to number 2.
Number 2 is a story that we've been liking all along, although I think they need to wrap it up soon. It's Daredevil number 35, and the story arc, it says, is Lockdown Part 5.
All right. So Elektra is entering into a battle with Bullseye, and Bullseye has found a way to clone himself.
So she's fighting Bullseye and Bullseye.
She's fighting 3 Bullseyes in this story, and the whole city is on lockdown, hence the name. And she's fighting him by herself. And, well, she has a little bit of help with some technology that Stark gave him in a few issues ago. Some great writing in this one was that you have one situation where Bullseye is holding 2 hostages. And, usually in these hostage situations, you have, groveling, crying, don't let me die and all that stuff. This young woman decides that she's not going to be a victim, and even though she has no fighting ability that we see here, she finds a way to fight back, which I thought was excellent writing on. Well, I don't know who the writer was, Darsky or Landini, whoever it was. Kudos to you. And also, by the end of this issue, Elektra gets a little help, support that she wasn't expecting, which I thought was great.
I was not expecting. I mean, it's Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah. So, great storytelling here. Artwork was pretty solid, more so than a lot of the issues this week. And ends up with 3.5 shields out of 5. And I'm also looking forward to next issue, given the teaser cover that we got for at the end. You see it right here. So, looking forward to that. All right, so Daredevil number 35, 3.5 shields out of 5.
All right, so a little background story on the number 1 this week. Back in the 90s, when Image did their split off and started their own company, and Todd McFarlane started putting out Spawn. First off, he was the only one that even came close to hitting his deadlines.
Mm-hmm.
Spawn was a really well-drawn book, because let's face it, McFarlane's art is wonderful.
Mm-hmm. So this was one of the victims that Image in the early days had of style over substance, right? The Spawn stories.
No, he actually did a decent job
No.
writing them. Yeah,
Okay.
he wasn't as... His comics weren't pretty and empty.
Mm-hmm.
They actually had some substance to them. They were pretty good.
See, I didn't read any Spawn back in the old days. All the Spawn issues, I haven't read a lot of them, but all the Spawn issues I've read has been mostly in the last year. So,
Right. I read probably the first 10 or 12, and then it looked like Image was going to implode, and I stopped reading pretty much all the Image books. So, don't know a whole lot about Spawn.
mm-hmm.
I mean, we read Medieval Spawn, didn't really care for it. It was all right.
Yeah. I had all the action figures though.
Yeah, he did.
Surprisingly,
Didn't know they were.
Yeah.
I didn't tell him that he was playing with toys that represented demons from hell. No, I did not tell him that. Also, didn't tell his mom that either, because I'm no fool. Any rate, so this week's number 1 is a number 1 comic, Gunslinger Spawn.
All right, so this one actually surprised the hell out of me, pun intended. All right, so
A pun's a pun, whether you intend it or not, it's still a pun.
because I was fully expecting I was just gonna speed read through this, like, all right, this is super long, let's get this over with. But no, I actually enjoyed this one. So it has, I think, 4 stories in this issue. The first one, Gunslinger Spawn, has been thrown forward in time. He's originally from the late 1800s.
The Old West.
Yep, hence Gunslinger. He's from the Old West. And in the story, he meets a 20-something gas station clerk, and he asks him to fix his
Steed.
His engine steed, something like that. Something really primitive. It's his motorcycle. And the guy looks at it and he's like, "You're out of gas." And Spawn gets mad and he's like, "What's gas?" So he needs to learn how the 21st century works. The other stories are about him running around in the Old West, and most of them are great. I mean, the first one was pretty good, but I thought it was the least of the stories in this issue.
That doesn't happen very often.
No. One story I thought was really interesting, how they talk about how Gunslinger Spawn is one of the weakest spawns to ever walk the earth. His powers weren't up to snuff with medieval Spawn and regular Spawn, even when he first got here. But he's become weaker over time because he's using his own blood to power his weapons. And every time he does it, he becomes just a little bit weaker. And it's gotten to the point where, he's stronger than a mere mortal, but he's not half as strong as a lot of the other creatures running around.
Well, he takes advantage of the theory that Samuel Coke came up with, the Great Equalizer.
Yep. And he'll keep that going for as long as he can, I guess. So, great storytelling and, artwork. Todd McFarlane, of course. And, McFarlane, he's also come a long way in the last 20 years as an artist. So, I think his artwork is a lot more detailed and sharper than it used to be. You disagree?
I'm not sure he drew it.
It says McFarlane here.
The cover is definitely McFarlane's. That's why I chose that cover.
Okay, let's see here. Art. Okay,
Oopsie.
Yep. Script and plot, Todd McFarlane, and the cover is, but the artwork is Brett Booth. So
keep in mind, Todd McFarlane is brilliant in the way he chooses artists to draw his stuff. Because for a long time, everybody he hired were clones of him.
Yeah.
So
maybe that's why I got confused. I don't know. But good artwork, nonetheless. All right, so Gunslinger Spawn, the big surprise this week, I'm telling you. Gunslinger Spawn, #1 with 4 shields out of 5.
Yep.
All right, so there's your #1 pick. All right, so that is last week's issues. What do we have going on for this week?
All right. Now, keep in mind the way that the industry is right now. You never know what's going to ship and what isn't. But if everything comes out that I ordered on Comic Book Hub, then you got Crossover #9, which we've always enjoyed. It's always been a solid story, sometimes too short.
Yeah.
But Two Moons is back.
Oh, okay.
An independent book that we both liked a lot. It's #6 is coming out. You remember the one about the animals in space?
Oh, yeah.
Primordial.
Okay.
#2 is coming out. Looking forward to that. And Amazing Fantasy #4, which I think the story is either this is the last one or the next one's the last one.
Yeah, it started out strong, but I'm starting to get over it.
I need to know how it ends.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to it. Now, the next one, there was a series years ago, and he even got his own short-lived TV show, The Human Target.
Ah, okay.
Didn't he show up on some show?
He guest starred on The Arrow once or twice.
Okay. Dark Knights of Steel. I'm guessing it's like a Elseworlds.
Elseworlds, Dark Label. I don't know.
I don't know.
The other one they've been advertising a lot the last few weeks.
And I'm a sucker, so I
Okay.
got it. Batman #116. Batman and Detective. We're always looking forward to those. And Batman Reptilian #5.
You guys have heard us talk about this. It's one of those series where it's a contrast of writing versus artwork because, Garth Ennis, he knows how to write Batman. He does a really great job writing for Batman. The artwork, I forget the guy's name. Don't care for it. Don't like it.
It's one of the things we've always said about artwork in comic books is A 3 gets you, it told the story. Didn't really enhance the story, didn't take away from the story, it was not distracting, it just told the story. That gets you a 3. To get a 4, it has to be something that you want to stop and look. You finish these 2 pages, but I'm going back and look because it was good to look at. It was pretty.
Mm-hmm.
A 2 means I had to go back and look because I couldn't tell what the heck it was, which a lot of the panels in Reptilian have been like that.
I mean, it's so dark. I mean, I know it's Batman, but when it becomes so dark you can't tell what's going on, then you've gone too far. And also the fact that it's hand-painted doesn't help, because
and we've never been.
the old man and I, we don't usually like hand-painted stuff. I think there have been maybe 1 or 2 exceptions, but for the most part, no. All right, so does that cover our previews for this week?
That's it for this week.
All right, so I have a brand new Movie-ism ready to go.
2 weeks in a row, no stump the old man.
All right, so let's head back into the garage with Thor. All right, back out here in the garage with Thor, and I have an all-new Movie-ism for you today. This one, usually when I have done a Movie-ism on this show, I usually have recycled it from my old show, EMoney's Reviews. This Movie-ism, I have never used before.
Oh, good.
All right. So this one, I like to keep it geared towards superheroes. Last week we had a Halloween one. This one, it's more superhero geared. This one, I like to call what a lot of people like to call the Sky Beam Trope. Yeah. This is what happens in a lot of movies when, in the third act, when the bad guy launches their diabolical plan and they release, some kind of weapon, and a beam of light shoots up into the sky.
Like this? Woo! You don't jump. You don't jump for your treats, do you?
Yeah, something like that.
He's lazy.
All right, so a few examples of this. In the first MCU movie, Iron Man, when Tony has to defeat Obadiah, he's done everything else to try and beat him, so he tells Pepper to release the arc reactor at Stark Industries and overload it, and she's like, saying you're gonna die, and he says do it. She presses the button, and Obadiah gets caught in the blast, and the beam goes skyward. Another example, keeping with the MCU, the first Avengers movie, when Loki opens up the portal to release the Jatari into New York, they activate the device, beam of light shoots into the sky, and the portal opens.
Easy.
But that's not all. Here are a few more examples of the Sky Beam. So that's a very common trope in superhero movies. It's either one of 2 things usually in superhero movies nowadays. Either you have a disposable CGI army, or a sky beam, or possibly both.
Well, it used to be a lot of science fiction movies that did the Sky Beam. I just can't think of the name of it.
All right, so that is this week's Movie-ism. What am I going to do next week? I don't know. All right, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Back Issues. Hope you had a good time. All right, and good to have Thor back here with us. Aren't you glad we're back, boy? Aren't you glad?
I don't know. Last week we didn't have to come out here to call.
But Thor didn't get his treats this.
I'm sure he did start it now.
All right, so hope you had a fun and safe Halloween last week, and looking forward to the rest of the holiday season, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all going to be a good time. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Excelsior.
True believers, speaking of Thanksgiving, it's about a month away. It's not going to be the same this year when you go to the store. You need to shop early. You heard it from the old man.